Week 7 of the Smogon Champions Premier League has finally concluded, which of course means we got more games to cover. I am your host, Mr. Lord Rabia, and we'll be covering all of these games as per usual. Now, of course, you've been enjoying this lovely little tournament coverage. Go subscribe, because, you know, we got that little end of the year goal, 10k subscribers, into the next year, of course, and I need everyone watching to go down, and if you're not yet subscribed, go subscribe. And if you are subscribed, leave a like. And if you've already left a like, well, you know what, comment down below what your favorite Pokemon in the current NU metagame is. No, we got some really good games. The theme of this week is, why the fuck am I seeing the same team used in multiple games? What is happening here? Stole the whole flow, word for word, bar for bar. We are kind of getting to the point of the season where I do think people are getting a little tired, so it doesn't shock me to see some team sharing, but hey, in at least one of the battles, it's not the exact same team. There is at least one edit, and I think when you're doing the team sharing stuff, one, it doesn't always matter. I think it matters if you got a surprise set. You don't want to have the tech revealed, right? But if you're not running any like super hidden techs on your team, like anything that you wouldn't want your opponent to have the potential to have knowledge of, then it really doesn't matter when you use a known team. Like, if it's all standard, then who cares, right? But first off, of course, I gotta start off with this game. Another Freezai showcase, this time bringing what we actually saw, I believe, Elias bring a couple weeks ago, which was the Double Dragon with Magneton. Except this time, I don't actually have confirmation that it's Magnet Pull, but we've got the option of it being Magnet Pull because it's a new game. And then Eternally, Mike OTL, bringing the Persian. And tomorrow's video, you will learn to understand the power of the Alolan Persian, so let's get into it. Now, of course, Eternally leading with his Goodra versus Goodra. You're going to see the most unfortunate turn 1 ever. Freezai goes for the very greedy turn 1 Draco, and he misses. Now, both of these obviously were greedy Dracos because, oh my god, we are doing the Draco trade turn 1, trying to see who has the balls of steel here. Now, obviously, it was Freezai because he literally Terra Steeled, wanting to win this exchange early because it opens up a lot for his Salazzle if he is able to get rid of this Goodra. And unfortunately, he just isn't because of the miss. As Eternally does say, please do not roast Eternally. But look at that! Subscribe to Lord Rabia! Thank you for the shoutouts, Eternally. This is why you're my OTL. And we just see Eternaly's got the Demon Klefki set with Double Dance. And Freezai's answer is to immediately go Earthworm here, which I don't know if that's a mistake. Like, I don't know if Lazzle was better. I think really both of them were going to be kind of tough. You could have Encored, I guess, but it's tough. Because you don't even have like the guarantee anyway. This is Encore, right? You could be like Nasty Plot and then 2 attacks knock. So now we see that it's Coil Earthworm from Freezai, and Eternally tries to keep setting up a little bit in front of this, but it's kind of for naught because the Iron Defense doesn't really change the damage the EQ is doing. It's still doing so much that inevitably Worm is going to out-trade the keys. What we will see is Eternally eventually decides to get a little extra Calm Mind going though, and he just wants to pop this with an even stronger... Oh, I just went previous turn instead of next turn. Actually, he goes for another Iron Defense with Stored Power Duel. And in here, a very funny turn. Eternally goes for Stored Power, and then Freezai Metal Bursting. I don't know why we Metal Burst instead of going for just a normal attack. Maybe there's a... Maybe there's something to how that move works that I wasn't familiar with. Anyhow, now Eternally, because he has his Goodra around, he's actually allowed to Terra later with it. And the big thing, too, with Terraing the Goodra is, look at his Paldean Tauros and look at this team. Because this Goodra Terra'd, it's really pretty trivial for the Paldean Tauros not to win. Because the one thing you need is this Goodra to become weak, so that your CC KOs it. But since it Terra Steeled, you don't even have to ever CC the Goodra, which is very, very big. Gligar, you're already going to beat down. You're going to bulk up on it as it switches in, or you're going to like Raging Bull and then bulk up the next turn. Like, you're going to win the exchange with pretty minimal chip damage required. You don't need to set up too much for the game to not really care about Gligar. And Salazzle, it's just a matter of, okay, can you find a Trailblaze? So Tauros is in a really strong spot, and we're going to slowly see that Tauros come to life. So, Eternally, first step, right, get Rocks. You know you'll be able to force this Gligar out eventually. Rocks are just helpful, so, like, Persian's a good first way to maybe force the Gligar to want to go away. Because it can't really do much back. It's revealed that it's not got the Toxic. So he gets knocked. Now it's going to be taking way too much damage from that little Tauros later. Also, you do see this Mon would have been really nice to have KO'd early. I mean, it ended up mattering, Sliles will beat it down, but still. As Eternally goes to Quillfish, and I will say, Eternally brought the Forbidden Jutsu Quillfish set this game, and Freezai will be adequately punished for not knowing that, as Eternally makes a very nice double switch here. Knowing that he could probably just draw on the Gligar, he brings his own Gligar in. He's just trying to get damage on this Gligar so that Tauros can beat it later, as he gets a little bit more U-turn chip as well. Brings in his Persian. Here you can just go for a foul play, because it's going to be stronger at this point on Gligar. Anything else? And the Earthworm is what the sack is. Now here, of course, you're going to just get smoked. So Eternally decides instead, look at my Gligar, look how worthless it is. Let me sack it, and it doesn't matter if this Salazzle sits up. There's no Terra for it to use to not die to the liquidation here. We do see Choice Scarf, Quillfish come out, liquidate that Salazzle's assets, baby. Take that boy down. Now the Goodra comes out. I also kind of thought Eternally might just liquidate the Goodra as well, because then you just get Chip. But it doesn't matter. It's probably better to keep the fast Mon anyway. And I will say, had Eternally lost his Goodra earlier on in the battle, I think you would have seen him liquidate versus Goodra and then bulk up like this, just to make sure Tauros could get the goo with, like, CC the next turn. Something like that. Or just if Freezai hadn't used his own Terra, right? But yeah, in the very end, we do see this Tauros very easily clean up. I think this is just a very good display from Eternally on how to play to your condition in this game. Obviously, turn 1 was incredibly lucky. And if Eternally just loses his Goodra... We don't even know if he lost his Goodra turn 1, by the way. Because, as we saw how much his Draco did, 22. If it was super effective Draco, that's doing 88. So, EV spreads dependent. There's a chance Eternaly's Goodra would have still tanked the Draco Media from Freezai's, which is kind of funny. But it is, of course, still pretty unfortunate because it allowed Goodra to exist far longer than it would have otherwise. It allowed Goodra also to tank the Tatsugiri's Draco with its own Terrastalize and put that down later on in the battle. So, I mean, if that Goodra lands early, who knows who wins. But Eternally had a very straightforward path. And like we said, he played to his win con. He got that Gligar weakened. He got rid of the Salazzle, which could have outsped. He got rid of Tatsugiri, which I believe is confirmed that it was Choice Scarf for this game. I was able to win. So my co-TL does indeed defeat the newcomer, Freezai. Now, this next game was a very unfortunate one, because as a spectator, when I was watching this to prepare for the video, I remember for like 10 turns, I just stopped watching. Not because I wasn't watching, but instead I stopped really absorbing what was happening. Because, wow, we get to a point in this battle where nothing happens. So, we're gonna get there, but I like to show you this turn 1, especially here. Because look at GXC's team and look at this Poros. Like, where's the check? So, GXC's forced to lead Avalugg and Terra Poison turn 1. Because literally the Poros matchup, he has no other counterplay. It is literally Terra Poison. And it's like, it's not like Terra Poisoning with this is bad anyway. Because this is your best switch into Muck as well. So being a Poison type's really nice. Because if that is like Poison Touch Muck, now it can't poison you. You could also now just absorb any T-Spike. And since we see Curse Avalugg, odds are... Well, I mean, we already have 3 moves, so we know that it's not Rapid Spin. So, like, it's naturally pretty good to be a Poison type independently of the Poros. It's just, you literally have to Terra. Which kind of sucks. Now, we see this Goodra set. Might be one of the worst Goodra sets I've ever seen. I'm gonna be honest. It's not that it's a bad set, it's just one of the most, scuffed sets ever. Is it like, because it's just some very bulky utility stuff. You see here, there's a Dragon Tail come out. Block Meta Keys, and Flamethrower even doing, like, no sort of damage to Klefki as well, which I found really funny. And now Naraja doubles in on the Muck. He can get his rocks here. He can just throw off a Heavy Slam. There's a couple options. He chooses to double into Mr. Lug on either a predicted knock or just a Poros double. And he's also able to get back to full with Avalugg now. Scyther comes in on a predicted Rocks or Earth Power. Unfortunately, the Ghost-type move is going to hurt quite a bit as this Palisade reveals Hex. That tells us this Muck is certainly going to be a T-Spiking set. Now the Florges is able to come out. And this Florges, it hasn't happened yet. It puts in quite a lot of overtime this game. It ends up being a Wish Pass set. Still called Mind Wish, mind you. But Wish Florges ends up supporting GXC's team so immaculately throughout it. Because we're going to get to a point in this battle And I said, like, nothing really feels like it happens this game, as you can probably tell by now, because I've not really been commentating over what's going on, because nothing's happening. It's just them switching. But the really nice thing is this Florges just supports the rest of GXC's team so easily. Because eventually what's just going to happen is Copper Raja, Electrode, and Florges are just going to kind of keep cycling in the same 3-mon order of switching in and out. And Florges is just going to end up keeping this Raja at full. In spite of it not having its leftovers, it just not mattering. You know, the one goes for Protect there. Inevitably, it is going to get KO'd by Mr. Rajington, so he can go out to his Poros if he wants, or his Palisand here to tank the hit. As the Florges, what comes out is, again, just a free Wish Pass. You can bring back up the Raj. Every time Florges comes out, you're also going to end up seeing this Gardecuno switch in, as he tries to keep his Klefki around, just because, you know, it's going to get 2-tapped by the Florges. And since we saw Switcheroo earlier, we know that it's not going to have T-Wave. Actually, I'm wrong. He literally is double hazard. I just didn't pay attention to the battle. Lamau. Anyhow, he doesn't want to lose his Klefki. It's hilarious. And then we got again, this is what I've been telling you for a while. This same sequence is just going to keep happening. Where Florges will switch into Palisand, and then the Gardecuno will switch into the Florges, as it uses Wish. As we get to the Raja, like, nothing's happening. So it's just kind of a good example, I would say, of there not really being a great way for Watashi to make a whole lot of progress. And here, you're actually going to see, too, I don't know if this actually matters. It's not yet that happens. Eventually, you're going to see the Palisand Terra Poison in front of H-Trode. And it just kind of showcases, I think, I don't know, the helplessness that Watashi was having to deal with this game. We just doesn't really have a way to break past GXC's team, right? Like, in theory, it would have been Depaldi and Tauros, but what's Avalok Terra's, it doesn't care. So yeah, I mean, he gets some hazards up, he tries to set the game up in his best win-con scenario, I guess, to put it. But, like, what's winning? Gardecuno's never getting past Raj without incredible luck. Tatsugiri is, I presume, like, Scarf this game? Maybe? Actually, no. We do end up learning the Tatsu set later. I don't think that was Scarf. But, like, there's just nothing. What's he supposed to go to here? GXC just has the answer to everything. And here's where you see the Terra, by the way. Because I guess he just didn't want to go Gardecuno on the Leaf Storm. And he also doesn't really have a pivot into this mon anyway. So he Terra Poisons. It doesn't KO. With the Earth Power, unfortunately, though. So, this stupid little rotating ball sticks around. And I'm just going to start skipping through turns. Because, I mean, literally, this is what happens. Wish. Now, he makes a double to try to get a little bit of initiative. But it doesn't matter. Because the floor just comes right back out. And this thing still has far too many Wish Power points. And you'll slowly see both the Gardecuno and this Palisand run out of their own recovery. And that's kind of the power of having them on, like, Florges in a tier. Where you've got these Wish Passers that we kind of saw this play out in Sword and Shield NU, where at a point, the Vaporeon and Sylveon structures were just so powerful. Because having Wish on your balance build generally meant you beat any other balance team that didn't have Wish. You just outlasted them. The opposing breakers were generally not going to be able to make up enough ground on their own to compensate for the sustain that your team would have, because you're also going to have your own breaker. I mean, those teams were very formulaic. You know, I mean, I could build one in my head right now. Vaporeon, Rotom-Mow, Copper-Raja, Mudsdale, Dragalge, and Passimian. Like, something like that. Obviously, Dragalge's not in the tier anymore, but it was, like, at some point. It's just that kind of idea. You had these such formulaic builds where you had Steel type, Ground type, Pivot, it was almost always Rotom-Mow, Wish Passer, Wall Breaker, Scarfer. And you just had such a leg up on the competition. And as I've talked about all of that meta stuff, nothing really has happened. We actually saw a Tatsugiri live a dual wing beat from a Scyther. I did want to calc that because I thought that damage made no damn sense. This was like some max HP Tatsugiri stuff, which is certainly an interesting angle. Kind of trying to make up for how bad Tatsugiri's bulk is by giving it a little bit of extra. Maybe letting you get a cheeky trade like Watashi was able to versus that Scyther. And yeah, I mean, we do see Wish Pass Florges being incapable. I mean, it can't, like, Calm Mind to beat the Gardecuno, especially with competitive. Like, Psyshock's already bad enough, but competitive meaning, if you ever get the Moonblast special attack drop, it just comes back to completely smack you in the face. I think it's really funny. But yeah, so I'm just going to keep going through the turns, because literally while we described it at the beginning, the same switch sequence between, it's not even 3 Pokemon, it's 2 Pokemon to each team. Florges will switch back and forth between itself and the Raja, passing wishes. And although both Palisand and Gardecuno have recovery moves, they're just not making enough progress, and they're just being forced out of all their recovery. So you can see here, GXC has plenty of turns where he can make aggressive plays with Raj and heavy slam the Palisand. Like right there, for instance. There's not any reason really not to heavy slam, other than not wanting to risk losing the game, because he doesn't have to. This is a good example too. I think like this game has a lot of nice lessons to learn. Where this battle, you have so many turns just to make a prediction. And like, it's a good play, it's just very unnecessary. He'd get him right every turn, and it's like 99.9% chance he heavy slams on those shore ups, and it's just always okay. Because I mean, if the Palisand goes away, and there's other issues for Watashi in the game, like he kind of has to keep the Palisand a lot of health. Otherwise, Raj, when it gets back in versus Gardecuno, it just, you know, again, it's beating you down. But he doesn't have to. He can always just make the safe play to Florges. And there's no double switch for Watashi at any point in this game, really, to where you can punish that. As you see here, Avalugg just gets sacked because it does literally nothing at this point. So, you just try to keep his mons at as high amount of health as possible. Now, I will say, this part of the game actually almost made me wonder, is there any out for Watashi? And the answer was, of course, yes. So, we do see this actually just doesn't have T-Bolt. It's Volt Switch, T-Wave, Leaf Storm Foul Play, presumably at least. He goes for the T-Wave just to make sure this Gardecuno is as limited as possible, but this one does learn to move Air Slash, which could flinch. And of course, this actually does manage to out-recover Heavy Slam damage at least a little bit. It's not really an enthusiastic out-recovering, but you know, there was technically an out. If the Air Slash had flinched down Raj, there was a shot. But yeah, what looked like maybe a pretty solid match for Watashi ended up being an almost unwinnable one once the Avalugg Terras, and even just on turn 1. You know, we talk about, oh, the person that Terras second almost always wins, or like wins a lot more than the other. Yeah, okay, can't tell based on this game. It just didn't matter. I mean, get game 3. Now, we see Catchman Gamer. I think this was their first week playing NU, and like I showed earlier, interesting team. They brought out Rain. Manual Rain is one of the better archetypes in the tier. For some reason, Elias rolled up with Stall. And this might be like the worst matchup I've ever seen for Stall, because Rain is just going to, it's just gonna bend you back. It's gonna snap your back in half. They're gonna rip your arms out your sockets, and it's not gonna be a good time. The route to play this is very easy. You will lead one of these 2 mons. You will set the weather, and then you'll just win. Because what is stopping Rain into pivot? Nothing at all. So Elias immediately does best. He leads Yama, because he knows one of the weather setters is going to be led with. He wants to knock, because he wants to at least get rid of the rock for later, if he's able to last long enough into the battle. You want to limit the amount of total rain turns. So he just spams knock. The Uxie never actually hits it with any real move. It does set up a future sight, which ends up being kind of bad. As the Floatletins comes out, also, just random comment, I thought you'd take a lot more recoil. And Catchman Gamer makes a really nice read here, because he just stays in. He doesn't care if a Wave Crash comes out there at all. Had Wave Crash come out there, it actually would have been kind of bad, because it would have KO'd the Floatzel. So that aggressive read, I honestly kind of on its own won the game. Because from there, the Floatzel did all it needed to do. It broke some holes in the team. And it got rid of one of the actual answers to like the Poliwrath, which was the Uxie. Now, Elias did have this Terra Dragon Palisand, which actually just ends up checking Wrath pretty decently. But he could just switch out here now. And Ludicolo now is going to very, very easily beat down the Palisand anyway with its Ice Beams. So Chansey comes out. Unfortunately for this Chansey, there's a Hoopa on the other team, and even more unfortunately for this Chansey, it's Calm Mind. It's not Shadow Ball, it's not T-Wave, no. It also gets tricked to Scarf immediately. So it gets locked into the Calm Mind, and now it's just fodder. So Avalugg is forced in, and it just dies to 2 Shadow Balls. Very, very trivially. Now we're going to see the Palisade come out. This is literally Elias's only way of dealing with this Hoopa. Is taking 5 million from a Shadow Ball, KOing back. But now, because this mod is so weakened, Polyrath is just going to enter the field. It's UC. And now it's not like it's over for Elias. There is technically an out. So as you can see, Ditto copies. Ditto could actually win this if you want to be, you know, technical. So, like, had that Ditto gone for liquidation there, maybe it would have been a little better, by the way. But Ditto CC still 2 shots. And here you're going to see the chance comes back out. Just throw off a Seismic Toss. It's really all you have going for yourself right now. But it's actually always better anyway for you to die there. Because now you get to copy the Polyrath again. And if the Illumise misses T-Wave, I mean, it's not like you don't lose on the spot. You still got to make sure you KO Ludicolo, and I don't think you one-shot it. You're going to have to get a roll. But technically here, this was still winnable. Unfortunately, T-Wave landed, so he loses. And of course, I mean, yeah, Ludicolo comes out and Giga Drains. So this is a very, very funny game. As you can see, not every stall matchup lasts 5,000 turns. Sometimes you just get a quick and easy one. As now, like I said, haha, hey, look, I just saw that team not too long ago. And, yeah, we're gonna see, this game was a little dirty. So, this Heracross from Michael. This Heracross is very, very rude. And we kind of see one of the problems with that Electrode set. Because no T-Bolt, I mean, it's not like you beat the Heracross anyway, it's just no T-Bolt means you threaten it even less than you normally do. And so, the only real way I can show you this game is if we press play. Also, Bruxish, please respect my ugly fish friend. Because Bruxish looks, once again, incredible in a game. Now, there is the Electrode static. That is something you have to care about. But please tell me what stops the Psychic Fangs once it Terra Psychics. The answer is the Avalugg. The answer is also potential Terra Dark from Electrode, but let me cook, man. Anyhow, we get the Bruxish lead. And right, very, very quickly, we see why Bruxish doesn't get used in tournaments, because in tournaments, the static is just 100%. But Heracross comes out immediately, gets its guts. Now, Danny immediately just makes an overpredict. The problem here is Danny's thought process is this. He's just trying to get his Heracross in, it's free guts. Then he's going to bring Gligar and block the Volt Switch and get a free Stealth Rock up. You know, very, very easy sequence to make if you're Michael. The problem is, he doesn't have to do that. Because Heracross isn't taking damage from T-Bolt. Like, it's gonna live always. He doesn't necessarily need to be at a ton of health to dominate this game anyway. He just has to get some safe ins, and he can start throwing off facades. Like, it's very, very easy, especially once you get rid of one of the only mons faster than the Heracross. By now, you're faster than everything except Scyther. So Scyther has to immediately come out as the Gligar comes in, and he SD's up, knowing it's a force switch. And unfortunately, he misses, because now the Toxic comes out, and how do you hit that dual Wing Beat? You're going to see based on this damage, he would have KO'd it on this turn instead. Now, of course, I don't think Michael would have let him KO the Gligar. Maybe he still would have, because you let him KO and then you get the switch into, like, Bruxish on the follow-up turn. Or Keys, even, because Keys, you know, beat Wall Scyther with that. I don't know. It just sucks, because now the Gligar's around for, say, this turn. So Gligar got to be used as a pivot into the Raja there. It, once again, makes this mon take a little bit more toxic. It's able to now switch into the Keys, another dual Wing Beat miss, which also ends up being kind of important later on, as you'll see with Avalugg taking a sequence versus it. It's a very untimely dual Wing Beat miss, as the Scyther obviously needs to get its prescription updated at the optometrist, and I recommend you do that too. If you have not seen your eye doctor, please go see them. Please, make sure your eyesight's good. Anyhow, Raja trading versus Brooks, even though there's no Wave Crash switch in really. I mean, there's an Avalugg, but, you know, he could just always flip turn 50,000 times. And here we finally do see the Gligar go down, but, I mean, the job's been done. Toxic the Scyther, wasted a lot of turns. Now, unfortunately, Danny does make the wrong pivot there. I think he probably should have kept the Scyther, but I get it. I mean, you gotta predict CC versus Facade. It's not easy. as the Avalugg Terra poisons, because of course you do not want to be weak to that Omega scary Heracross and its scary CCs of Doom. And he goes for his curse. Klefki reveals Flash Cannon, and here's where, again, hitting Dual Wing Beat would have mattered. The keys would have just died there. Unfortunately, what ends up happening, instead of dying there, Klefki just gets Leftovers recovery up back to over half, as it slowly but surely, methodically, paralyzes this Avalugg to death. Yeah, that was a painful sequence to watch. The Avalugg does switch. He wants to preserve it, of course, as a sack, maybe to the Bruxish. Mr. Goodra comes out, and once again we see just how weak this Goodra is. Flamethrower versus Keys doing very, very minimal damage. This is not a threat. Now it does win the trade, and this Keys is unfortunately not got player up, so it can't actually do damage to Goodra. But the T-Wave is all you need, because now Heracross can come in. It's just gonna Terra normal and start KOing everything. You know, what's the switch in? Avalugg obviously is dead. Goodra ain't tanking one from that high. Raj is weakened enough, plus I mean you could just get CC'd anyway. I'm here to tell you, this is Florgus. Even at almost full health, that's not a switch in. That is not a switch in. So, very, very nicely done by Michael, punishing that many turns of very fortunate luck. Well, making use of, I should say. Punishing Danny for his bad misfortunes. And being able to get Heracross in a position to where it just wins. I really think getting rid of Trode as early as he did was super, super needed. Because if this is a round to maybe like Volt Switch on you later, just keep, you know, again, it's not a matter of like one shot in the Heracross or anything. It's just a matter of having Electrode around, so there's always something faster that at least threatens damage and gives you a way to force chip damage onto it if you need to somehow take it out later. And yeah, I mean, Trode going down early, Scyther also being tactically weakened through sheer power of luck and just good repositioning between your Gligar and your Klefki. He was able to limit the fast mons and eventually get the Heracross clean. And then I get the last matchup, Avers Talki. Avers coming into this game, I think 4-0 in you. 3-0, something like that. No, 4-0. 3-0? 3-0. Yeah, it was 3-0. Talking about this, I have maybe 1-1, 1-2? Something like that. And like we mentioned earlier, Talki also bringing a team used by Catchman Gamer. It would not shock me if Talki built the team, but it doesn't really matter. It's more rain, but we will see a small set adaptation, which I think maybe was changed by one of the two users, just to make the team a little bit more unpredictable. Now, Avarice is probably one of the most standard-looking teams that they have brought the whole tournament, and yet somehow the team still looks like it's comprised mostly of PU Pokemon, because they just brought so many small little guys, like Tatsugiri is really tiny, Klefki certainly feels like it's really tiny, Electrode Hisui, I mean, it looks kind of large on your screen, but it still feels like it's a very small Pokemon. And I mean, this is another game where I'm like, Rain just kind of wins, because look at the Poliwrath, it's just disgusting. You need maybe a little bit of chip on some guys, and of course, Terra Water Gligar is kind of scary. But Poliwrath just looks so oppressive. And Ludicolo even. Like, look at Ludicolo this matchup. It just weather balls everything. To Dunsparce will be annoying, sure, it can take like a hit in the pinch, but you think it's gonna truly beat you if you've got multiple rain turns? Ugh. So, once again, we see the Uxie lead. It's just gonna set up the rocks, it's gonna set up its rain, and it's gonna U-turn out. Or, not even U-turn. It's gonna set up rocks and rain, and it's gonna go for Future Sight, and then U-turn if it needs to, you know? The Mesper goes for its U-turn. Future Sight has been set, as Mr. Electrode is out, KOs the Uxie. Now this gives a free switch in to the Ludicolo. This Ice Beam could come out. Instead, they opt for a nice little Weather Ball. Gets a crit here, as the Volt Switch happens. And, yeah, so Tatsugiri comes in and immediately gets popped by a Future Sight. And that Future Sight is kind of unfortunate, too. Because as you see, look at that damage in Giga Drain. It's not even a 2-hit KO. Had Avarice not allowed that mon to get hit by Future Sight, maybe it would have been a little bit better. Maybe it would have been able to take the trade. And Taki very, very nicely predicts the switch out, hits a Weather Ball in the keys. Nicolo has done a lot of work. Hoopla now is able to come out versus the Electrode. Tank of Old Switch. Unfortunately, what happens here is Hoopa once again shows that somehow 150 special attack is not enough, because the Mesprit just lives. And then it knocks. And look at that, Custap Berry. So Custap's pretty cool in Hoopa. Custap in general on random Pokemon is pretty cool if you can get in range. But that's the little change that was made by one of the two users. I don't know who, if it was a change from Custap to Scarf or vice versa. But cool little idea. And Ataki able to set up the rain, get a nice little Encore off on the Gligar, and then just free U-turn. Bloatzel now can come out pretty freely, or Poliwrath, just either of the physical waters. This is just a safe CC if you want. I mean, there's nothing coming in. Dunsparce is forced to be sacked. And I mean, you're gonna have to try and make a lot of doubles in a row here, as Avarice gets gooped there by the EQ. The Terra Ghost, I mean, look, it doesn't really matter at this point anyway. And yeah, they just forfeit. Well, like, let's be real for a second, right? The EQ play there is just in case they go for CC, or in case they Terra Ghost you EQ, not wanting to risk them going for Terra Ghost. We're not CCing and getting that blocked for no good reason. Plus, in case they want to try and, go this, be like, oh, what if I Terra? Maybe go for Water Move. It's like, okay, now I don't let Tatsu in, and I don't let this Scoob me with the Terra. They're probably not going to double in one of these two, so. I mean, because CC even would probably just pick them off, Just a very nice mid-ground play he does with the game. But I hope you all enjoyed this Week 7. Week 8, of course, is underway. We will have the recap video sometime next week for that. I don't know when I'm going to get it done, because I do work, like, all of next week. But we'll figure it out. I hope you all enjoyed, though. Shoutouts eternally for reminding all the people to subscribe. And once again, if you did make it this far into the video, and you have subscribed, and you have left a like, and just comment down below your favorite current SV and Pokemon is. That's it for me, though. I'll catch y'all in the next video. Peace.